بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I should apologize for being late, which is the elephant in the room. I'm sorry. I'll blame my driver, but I will not identify who he is in this room. There was a crash on the M1, and then another one after that, just to make sure we were double late. And then the battery malfunctions on the way as well, just to really, substantiate our delay. And then I called one of the brothers here to show that I'm late, and he said, well, video call me and show me what it looks like. I won't say his name because then he started laughing when he saw the extent of our delay. But alhamdulillah, Allah plans and we're here. So I'd like to thank you for your patience. I hope the food was nice and the cake is nicer, inshallah. And may I borrow your ears just for some brief time for a few discussions, and then I guess we'll be on our way, inshallah. If you are with me for the time we have, Salah ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And also a special thank you to all of the organizers who came together for today's event. It is quite incredible. I've done a lot of ABSOC events where we're sitting. I was saying to the brother, it's a small room somewhere, in the university where they happen to have room, and it's a tiny room. We're sitting together, discussion, dua kumail, and this is an amazing and quite beautiful event. So may Allah bless all the organizers. It's not easy, and so may Allah accept all of your efforts. Okay. My topic today, which I was thinking about, what I wanted to address for today's discussion, is about this idea of self-value and self-love. Often we forget and neglect ourselves in our love and care for other people. And what tends to happen is, if we don't prioritize ourselves or our own well-being or our nature, you find you live a life of suffering and hardship. And often the cause of it is, I didn't value myself and give honor and respect to myself in order to alleviate myself from these issues. I'll give you a few examples on this. The religion of Islam, which is the unifying factor for today's event, is a source of honor for us and pride for us and dignity for us, that we are known by this religion of Islam. If someone looks at you and thinks of this religion, what a great honor it is to be associated to the deen of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, to the deen of the Quran, the deen of all of this ruhani, ma'anawiyah, that I'm linked to this religion. It's a truly honorable thing. But what tends to happen is, sometimes we are not proud of our religion. We are not proud to stand or be identified by our faith. There's something about religion which is parochial or old or ancient or just backwards or worthy of discrimination. I don't feel proud of this religion. I'd rather being identified by something else, but not by the fact that I am a Muslim or I'm a Shi'i or I'm a lover of Ahlulbayt. That shouldn't be the first thing someone thinks of me. I don't like how it feels. Why? Okay, let's look at it a little deeper. We have a narration from our Holy Prophet where he says, or is attributed that he says, if somebody regarded themselves as honorable, they would see sins as too low for them to commit. If they saw themselves as having genuine sharafat, like genuine honor in themselves, if they saw that, if they looked in the mirror, now this is my adding, if they looked in the mirror and they genuinely valued the person they see in that reflection, they would see sins as too low for them to engage in. The word dunya comes from daniya. Daniya means low. They would see themselves as much greater than these actions. So now, the one listening is thinking, not only I've not valued my religion, but I've not valued myself that much. I've not respected myself. I've not given myself regard. Okay. What we need then is to respect ourselves and to have confidence in our tradition and where we are from. Take these ideas and put them in your minds, and add another idea to this. In Islam, we are told repeatedly to stand up for the oppressed. Those who are either madloom or mustad'af or miskeen, or those who are min fuqara or in Quran min al-sabil, these people, stand for them. It's an injunction on you. Stand for the oppressed. And you, all of you, are those who have been raised by mothers and fathers who love Abu Abdul Hussein alayhi salam. We have no option except to stand for the oppressed. The milk we have been fed as a child was fed to us so that we stand with the honor of a Husseini. The arms which lifted you as a child were the same arms which lifted the alam in the majlis of Hussein alayhi salam. So I don't have an option when it comes to Hussein alayhi salam and the oppressed. I have to stand for them. But look at this issue again. If I don't value myself to a sufficient degree, I won't be making those stances and those stands for the oppressed. I just won't. It won't be my priority. It's not my interest. I don't need it in my life. I have other things to deal with. So the real problem we're facing, which I want to discuss with you, is why didn't I value myself as sufficiently great and honorable to not fall into those sins which I did, to not make those wrong decisions that I did? And when the time came to stand for haqq, well, like, why didn't I? What was more important than standing for haqq to me now? To unpack this idea, we have, of course, two great examples who show what it's like to stand for haqq, even if all the people are against you. You don't let go of the truth and how to stand for the truth. And one is Sayeda Zaynab sallallahu alayha, and the other is Imam al-Askari alayhi salam. Read the salawat. It doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter what people say about my religion. It doesn't matter what all of the momentum of the consensus is. I stand where they stood. I'm loyal to what they said. If they walk, I walk. And if they stop, I stop. When they speak, I listen. When they're silent, I don't interrupt them. This kind of loyalty only comes from someone who respects themselves, awalan, and then they respect others. Okay. I want to explain for you why we lost this feeling of strength and honor and karam and true regard for myself. Like, when did I stop respecting myself? That I stopped having these role models actively in my life. And to answer this question of when did I stop respecting myself, to go to Ahlulbayt, I want to go to the era of colonialism. Now, colonialism, as all of you know, and it's weird, like, I didn't want to go too deep today, but I guess we'll start deep and we'll come back towards the shallows. We went through a very difficult era as a community, right? Where our religion was told to us from people in their language, in other countries occupying our lands. And when the time came for us to speak about our deen, we lost the conceptual language to even speak about ourselves. We lost ourselves, in fact. Frantz Fanon, a very important anti-colonial thinker many of you may have heard of, who has many books, Black Skins, White Masks, The Wretched of the Earth. He has a theory where he says, why did slavery exist for so long? Like, why was there slavery for such a long period of time? Why wasn't it just eradicated there and then? He says slavery existed for two reasons. One, the one who was the slave owner believed themselves to be an owner of slaves. And the one who was enslaved believed themselves to be worthy of being enslaved. Like, they accepted their roles. I own slaves, I am a slave. But the moment it became a fact was when the slave called the other person by the word slave. So then not only they believed it, they internalized the belief of their slavery, and by calling just one other person a slave, they replicated the same view. So now slavery isn't just some idea, it's how I view myself, how I identify you, and how I allow you to identify myself. So the issue goes further now. I have internalized what's been told about me. I've believed it. All those things people say to you, those judgments they judge you by, those expectations people give to you, at some point, I believed them. I thought they were true. I genuinely accepted someone else's judgment about me. And I valued myself based on their idea of me. They were projecting some insecurity that they have. And because they said it enough to me, and the voice was convincing and loud enough, I believed it. And I looked in the mirror, and the person I saw in that mirror, I gave that person a name and a label. And it was the same label the others gave to me. And I believed every single judgment that was given towards me. So Fanon says this happened to slaves. Malcolm X says the same thing. Malcolm X says that when they say you are the slave who works in the field and the slave who works in the house, the moment you believe this, you have become enslaved by them. You did it to yourself by your acceptance of their label. You did it. And this goes back to an idea in philosophy from Hegel, who believed that there's no such thing as actual social relations. It's just what people believe. If you believe you are honorable, you are honorable. If you believe you are a slave, you accept this view. If you believe you are a good mother or a father, you'll follow the rights of motherhood and fatherhood. Hegel believed it's all about belief. And many thinkers later went to Hegel for their views. Shi'i went to him, Feminists went to him, Marxists went to him, others went to him to show that how do we break free of our chains by no longer believing what people tell us about ourselves. So here's the general consensus. I lost a sense of my value because people around me tried taking it away from me. They told me to aspire to something little and I believed them. I genuinely believed them. And I viewed myself in the same way. And here's when it got worse. Whatever words they used about me, I started using those same words to describe others. And I replicated the same thing. For example, a person who is grown up by parents who put on them expectations which are not fair on them, or by judgments on them. When that person becomes a parent, when they say the same thing now to their child, they're continuing the same thing. So they've truly believed of their own inferiority because they've taught their children that they themselves are inferior. This cycle keeps going. The way to break the cycle is to no longer look for your value from others. You look for your value from Allah Azza wa Jal. That's how you break the cycle. The one who chooses who I am and my potential and what I can be and what I can achieve is not that person or that person. Only God determines my value, and God has given you unlimited potential. Now when I have my worldview like this, I'm no longer limited by the language of others. Now I view myself as honorable, as having a tradition I should be proud of. Allah is the one who is haqq. He is the truth. And Allah decides all of the huquq of everything which exists. As Imam Sajjad says, your hands have their own rights, your eyes have their own rights, your body has its own rights. God chooses those rights. Now when I have this Allah-centric worldview, now I'm not allowing anyone's words to affect my sense of myself. That's off limits. Only God determines this part. Nothing else is actually real. Like only Allah truly exists. The true meaning of La ilaha illallah is not there's no God but Allah or no deity but Allah. Allama Tabatabai says the true meaning of La ilaha illallah is there's no deity which actually exists except Allah who does exist. None of those other things are real. That idol Quraysh worship wasn't actually real. That version of God that ISIS had wasn't the true God. This limited view that I had of God wasn't actually Him. None of the things are real. Only Allah is haqq. Everything else is some mental conception of Him. It was not true in the first place. I don't know why I believed those things. God was not cruel. God was not a punisher for people who want to turn back towards Him. God does not restrict His mercy. God does not look down upon you. God does not hate you. The Quran mentioned in Surah Duha, God does not abandon you. He's not like this. These were all things people told me about Allah. And at some point I believed them. Like I accepted God was like, I stopped praying, I stopped fasting, I stopped having love in my God because I didn't think God could love me. But that's true. Allah who actually exists was never like that. He was completely, because He was real, He was haqq, He was existing. This Allama's worldview means that I can honor myself, I can have respect and love for myself, I can look in the mirror and say Alhamdulillah without looking and feeling bad about who people think I am. I've done one sin that the people keep judging me for. Allah sees the whole picture. I've done one good deed others praise me about. Allah sees my sins too. The one judging me now is someone who sees all of me, not just one portion of me, and wants to judge me by it. Keep that idea in your mind. Earlier I mentioned as well, before, that we as Muslims must stand for the truth and for haqq. I mentioned this. We have no option. If there's dhulm in front of us, we have to answer that dhulm. We can't remain silent. The blood of Hussein alayhi salam is too weighty for us to remain silent when there's a dhulm in front of us. I don't get to sit this one out. I don't get to explain away my responsibility. I have to take a stand. I have to. This is the injunction of Ahlulbayt. Sometimes people will judge us and talk to us and give us a view of what we should do, whereas no one is telling us what Ahlulbayt did. Standing for haqq means I follow Ahlulbayt. I don't follow what people think I should be doing. They have their own stance. They have their own version of what it means to be a resistance today. They have their own view. I don't go to them for validation. I go to Ahlulbayt for validation. Two examples of what this looks like is our 11th Imam and Sayeda Zaynab sallallahu alayhi. Read Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the point I want to make while you enjoy your cake, that actually rhymed, mashallah, is this one point. I should look at these people for how to take an honorable stand. Because in both these individuals, like everyone wanted one thing from them and they did the complete opposite. And today, right now, people have these expectations of me that I should be acting in a certain way and doing a certain thing. And sometimes it's hard to go against the majority. It's not easy to go against them. But if you're with haqq and with truth, you feel stronger. Look at Imam al-Askari alayhi salam. Of all our imams, of all of them, our 11th imam says, none of the imams have had their authority questioned as much as I have. No imam has been doubted for being an imam like I've been doubted. Our 11th, people don't know this. People question the way he walked. An imam shouldn't walk like this. Look at the books. People questioned how he spoke. Your father didn't talk this. Why are you speaking like this? People questioned how he would sign off his letters. Why is your signature like this? At the funeral of his father, Imam Hadi alayhi salam, our 11th imam lifts his collar above him. People says, why are you lifting? We've never seen imam before you. Lift their collar like this. When they ask him for an issue of sharia, they say, why are you answering like this? Your father didn't answer like this. He says, no one's been questioned like I've been questioned. No one's been doubted like I have been doubted. Hatta, sometimes people questioned his chastity as well. Of all the imam, no one went through this. The people had these expectations of him, and our imam did not succumb to any of those expectations. For example, during the life of our 11th imam, there were the debates happening of why haven't you gone on an uprising yet? Why not? Imam Hussein alayhi salam had an uprising at Ashura. Why don't you? In fact, all our imams faced this question after Abu Abdullah. And that's why we have so many sects, the Zaydi, the Ismaili, the Kaysaniya, all of them split because the imam at that time simply would not go on an uprising for his own reasons. Same thing, 11th imam, why don't you go on an uprising? Why? Imam would answer, it's in the wisdom of God not to. They wouldn't accept it. They wanted him to take a very specific stance in politics. Go for government now. And our imam says the time is not right for this movement now. It's not right. He adopted the Hassani approach. They wanted the Husseini. Today, right now, there are people, if you don't copy their political slogans, they think you're not following the imam. If you don't take the political stance they take, you're not following the imam. If you don't have the same worldview as them of how the imam should be, you're not following the imam. Where did this come from? Our 11th imam, people came to him and says, we think you should do X, Y, and Z. He says, I'm the imam. I'll tell you what to do. I'll give you the judgment. I'll give it to you. People today, you'll find this. They have an opinion, a political opinion. And it comes from wherever it comes from. And then only take the riwayat from the imams which fit this world's view. Like only them. And if you say, hang on a second, the imam says this as well, they'll be like, yeah, but that's not authentic, that alim is astray, that book's not real, I don't follow it. We only follow this one path. And if you're not near truth. Whereas we say, we don't look for the truth and go to the imam. We say, al-haq ma Ali wa Ali ma al-haq. The truth is with Ali. And Ali is with the truth. I don't go to the imam and say, this is what I think you should do. I say, yeah, imam, what do you think I should do? The truth itself knows it's true by its relation to Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam. The truth knows it's true because it follows Ali. And Ali in turn tells us this is the truth. This worldview of Ali ma al-haq wal haq ma Ali means I don't get to tell my imam do this. I follow my imam on what I should be doing. This level of loyalty was not found in the life of our 11th imam. In fact, people will say to him, if you don't uprise now, we'll follow your brother Ja'far al-Kadhab, we call him. We'll follow him instead. And many did. They split off and they followed his brother because he fit their worldview. Okay. At the time of the 11th imam, there were many extreme views competing with each other. For example, you had the ghullat and you had those who did taqsir. Ghullat are those who exaggerated the role of the Imam alayhi salam. This the Imam alayhi salam can receive wahi now. The Imam is like the God on this earth. The Imam is like Allah on this earth. They took walayat takwini, pumped it with steroids and says, this is the Imam right now. On the other hand, you had those who were completely did taqsir, who were known then as being muqassir, which we hear nowadays as well. They believe the Imam al-Islam has no ilm al-ghaib, has no knowledge of the unseen. The Imam cannot interpret the faith. The Imam does not have infallibility. Maybe you've heard these things today as well. Both groups wanted the Imam to follow them today. And the Imam answered them with one phrase, which we should answer all those who do the same thing that he said to them. The Imam is lower than what the extremists say and higher than what the deniers say. That's the Imam. He's not God and he's not like us. He's everything in between. This worldview. Okay. Today, people say, if I don't follow and copy the way they do dhikr of the Imam, I don't follow the Imam. And if I don't have the same methodology as them, well, I'm extreme and traditional and they are rational. None of these views are true. All that's true is you follow the Imam alayhi salam. That's what the truth is. Okay. Our 11th Imam. People wanted to pull him towards one extreme, he resisted. Others wanted to paint him as some revolutionary figure when that wasn't his plan. He resisted. He showed us, if all the people pull you towards one error, you stand firm on your principles, even if the whole world denies you. Allah recognizes your haqq and your truth. You get your value from God, not from people. I see the same thing in Sayeda Zaynab sallallahu alayhi wa Muhammad. I see the same thing in her. After Ashura, after Karbala, after the most traumatic era of Imamat, there are so many reactions she could have taken from this moment. She chooses of them strength, honor, dignity, non-defiance, revolution, izzah. She chooses this when she could have not. If you're in that situation and you're in suffering, people often expect from you reactions which Sayeda Zaynab did not choose. For example, when you're going through hardship, when life is genuinely difficult, people expect you to give up. They want you to be defeatist, like give up. At some point on this journey, turn back, don't go to Leicester, go back home, you're not going to make it. At some point that exam is too hard, Ya Allah, give up, look for a guy to cheat from, it's done. At some point, this narrow path you want, which your parents aren't accepting, give up, it's not going to happen. People say this all the time. For us, we should have an internal strength, a steel, an iron, though no matter what changes, I remain. No matter what challenge I go through, I stay. When Imam Ali would motivate his soldiers, he'd say to them, when the enemy come, you stay, and you keep your feet firm like mountains. Seasons will change, but you keep proceeding towards your enemy. Habib would say, we are the spears in the hands of Hussein. When he swings, we attack. Nothing can move us from the target of our enemy. That's Izzah. And I crumble when my challenges get too much for me. When Sayeda Zaynab faces the most difficult part of all of Imamat, she saves the life of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam on multiple occasions. Imamat has never been at risk as it has at this one moment. From Adam until the Dhuhr and after the Dhuhr, Imamat as an institution, from Inni Ja'alun fil Ardi Khalifa, as an institution, has never faced as difficult and critical era as right after Ashura. And Sayeda Zaynab, time and time again, stands for truth. So much so in our books of Aqaid, we have a principle in Aqaid that what do you do when your Imam and the Imam alayhi salam is too weak to do his responsibility? What's the role of a ghair Imam in that role? The only reason we have this discussion is because Sayeda Zaynab stood after Ashura. A whole book in Aqaid because of Zaynab. When the La'in goes into the tent on the night of Ashura to try and kill the Imam of the time, she puts her body in between the sword and the Imam alayhi salam and says, if you want to kill him, you have to kill me first. When they're coming towards the Imam alayhi salam on camels, she, in one riwayat, pushes herself from her camel onto the ground so that they don't proceed and attack Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. When Yazid says, which of you is Ali bin Hussein, Zaynab stands and says, you'll address me before you address the Imam. On multiple occasions, she stood when there was no one else to stand for Imamat. In fact, if you think about it logically, Imamat is the concept of God. Imamat is Allah's creation, Allah's nidam, not a man-made nidam. From Adam till our 12th Imam, Allah Azza wa Jal, when Imamat, when this whole system was under threat, the one He chooses of all of creation to save the system of Imamat is Aqilatu Zaynab al-Kubra. Of everyone, she's the one who is the weapon in the hand of God to save Imamat. There are no Aimma, no 14 Ma'sumin, no Dhuhur of the Imam, unless Imam Sajjad lives. And the one who keeps him alive is Zaynab. So one reaction to suffering is, you know what, life is hard, I'm going to give up. Not Zaynab, she does not give up, not for a second. In none of the books of the Maqatil does she give up for even a moment. There is strength and steel in Zaynab. Her honor comes from God, not from what people think of her. Another example, when we're going through hardship and difficulty, one reaction is to remain quiet. Quietism, like give up, close your mouth. The one speaking is more powerful, more brave, has more followers, and people respect them. Zaynab stands in not only the court of Ibn Ziyad, but and the court of Yazid, face to face with the tyrant, and speaks the truth. And I can't send out a tweet and say that Zaynab stands against the enemies? I can't wake up in the morning and go to a protest and she looks at Yazid and says, you are a fasiq? Like I can't correct someone in front of me when they're speaking wrong because it's too awkward for me. And Zaynab goes from Karbala to Kufa, Kufa to Sham, Sham back to Karbala, Karbala to Medina, and does not give up once. And I keep giving up at every moment. Hayhat min nadhillah. So the strength of Zaynab is seen even then as well. Okay, one reaction we have when life is hard and suffering is, alongside all of those things of giving up and remaining quiet, is just to run away. It's escapism. Literally leave your issues and run away. Don't deal with it. Procrastinate. I'm just not dealing with it. Sayeda Zaynab not only embraces her difficulty, she becomes a sign as Ummul Masaib. She doesn't run away. She doesn't hide away her suffering. She doesn't ignore it. She becomes the sign of the one who does musibah for Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Every majlis you've attended is sadaqah of Zaynab alayhi salam. Every single one. It's because of her. Ummul Masaib, one of my teachers in the Hawza says, Zaynab is not just Ummul Masaib, she's Ummul Azadar. She's the mother of every azadar. You know that child you see, that you tie that green band on him and teach him Hussein, Hussein? Zaynab is the mother to that child. You know that volunteer outside the center who's giving out chai, giving out tea? They are directly in khidmat of Zaynab. You know that young person who's reading for the first time and they're nervous, they don't know how they're going to recite, you know their heart's beating quite fast? The hand which calms their chest is the hand of Zaynab. You know when you're late to the majlis but you're rushing to at least be there for the matam, that rushing is done for the sake of Zaynab. And you know when the non-Muslim says, who is this Hussein you are staying up at late nights to go to his majlis? When you speak and says, Hussein is my inspiration, it's Zaynab who gives you that voice. So Sayeda Zaynab salamullahu alayha, Aqidatu Zaynab, is a sign of strength. It's so easy for us to overlook and not see the hope in this world. But for her, when she's asked, what do you see? She says, Ma ra'ayta illa jamila. I see nothing but beauty. There is nothing to her except beauty. Ashura is beauty for her. Karbala is beauty. The bodies which have been lying there, because they were killed for haqq, there is beauty in those bodies. Every single one. The tears that don't stop flowing in Ashura are not sadness for us alone. They are hope and they are beauty. It would be easy for her to say it was hard and beautiful. Ma ra'ayta. I don't see anything except beauty. There's no compromising on the beauty of my Imam of my time, alayhi salam. I love him. I love every aspect of him. There's not one segment of my Imam which I'll put aside and look at the rest. I have complete loyalty towards him. Ma ra'ayta illa jamila. So I might think that when I'm facing difficulties and hardship, what's expected of me is give up, don't speak, be quiet, focus on the negativity. Not for the love of Zaynab, for the love of Sayeda Zaynab. When life is hard, I speak, I stand, I go to the battlefield, and I look for the beauty even in every suffering, because that beauty is one of the segments of the beauty of God. Inna Allah ta'ala jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Allah is beauty, and He's from beauty. I need that worldview. And to end and conclude, I'm not going to get that if I keep believing what people say about me. Like I'm not going to taste any of these things, not a single portion, if I keep internalizing the negativity of others They bring me down and I believe what they said. They think it's okay for me to only reach a certain level and I believe them. They have a materialist worldview and for some reason I accepted them. Why? I was made for much more than this limited worldview. I was made for liqa Allah, meeting with God. When did I give up on this plan to reach Allah Azza wa Jal? When? Sayeda Zaynab and our 11th Imam remind us, no matter what the people say, no matter where they take you, no matter what they expect from you, you get your rights from God. I'll end on these lines attributed to our Sayyid Amir alayhi salam, attributed towards him. All of you know these things because you've seen it around you. And you know it. Your sickness is from you, but you don't see it. And the remedy is within you, but you didn't perceive it. You think you are small. You see yourself as some small entity. Yet within you is the entire universe. You are that book, that manifest book, from which the alphabet makes that which was hidden become known. So why do you look elsewhere and seek something outside of you? It was all within you in the first place, if only you reflect. Inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.